Hi everyone, I'm Antonio Filipovic, software engineer at Memgraph. Previous video provided you with a brief introduction to high availability in Memgraph. In this video, we'll delve deeper by demonstrating how to connect three Memgraph data instances and three Memgraph coordinators in a cluster. Depending on how runtime flags are set, Memgraph can run as a data instance or a coordinator instance. The coordinator instance is a new addition to enable the high availability feature and orchestrates data instances to ensure there is always one main instance in the cluster. Now first, let's start with configuring the three data instances, one main instance and two replica instances, which will both be in sync mode. In our previous video, we talked about sync mode versus async mode, so be sure to check that video if you haven't yet. Here is the command we will use to start main instance. As you can see in this command, there are a few flags we can't forget to enable replication and high availability. For replication, we need to set replication restore state on startup and data recovery on startup. These two flags enable us to recover all the necessary data and durability configurations for Memgraph to continue replication process, meaning the replica instance can continue receiving updates from main and main can continue receiving write queries. Other flags that we need to set are management port and experimental enabled. These two flags are tied to high availability feature and enable the coordinator to connect data instance and allow Memgraph data instance to use the high availability feature, which can be enabled by experimental enabled flag. All these flags are set in command you see here. An important note to remember throughout this process is that since we will start all data and coordinator instances on the same server, we need to be careful not to use the same management port or both port. Next, we will start two more data instances, which will serve as replicas. Here are the commands for these two replica instances. As you can see, there is not much difference between these two configurations. One additional thing we need to be careful about is data directory, which should be different for each Memgraph instance because all the data and other replication settings are durably stored there. After we have started data instances, it is time to start coordinator instances, also known as coordinators. Here are the commands for all three coordinators. From a configuration perspective, the main difference between data instance and coordinator is that data instances have management port, whereas coordinators have coordinator ID and coordinator port. Coordinator ID serves as identifier, and coordinator port is used for synchronization and log replication between coordinators. Coordinator IDs and coordinator ports must be different for all coordinators. Once you have started all instances, it's time to connect them to cluster. We will use coordinator 3 as the leader. We'll now use MG console to connect to coordinator 3 and run the following queries on coordinator 3. When adding coordinators, we need to set the both server and coordinator server addresses in the config map. The both server address is used for the routing protocol, while the coordinator server address facilitates the communication between coordinators. As we covered earlier, you can use both plus routing to run write queries on the main instance and read queries on any replica, ensuring you are always connected to correct main instance. Once you have run these queries, you should see confirmation in the logs that the coordinators are connected. Alternatively, you can verify this by running show instances query on any coordinator. The output should display all three coordinators. We'll do that now on coordinator 3. Once the coordinators are registered, we can proceed with the registration of data instances. When registering data instances, we need to add management server, replication server, and vault server in config map. A management server is needed for the leader coordinator to ping data instances and run RPC commands. Each data instance requires a replication server in case it becomes a replica. An instance becomes a replica on a first registration or in case of instance is main and failover happens to other instance. After registering all instances on coordinator, you can then run show instances query to verify that everything is registered. Now it's time to choose one instance and designate it as the main instance. We'll choose instance 3 as the new main instance. Once promoted to main, you can again run the show instances query and verify that instance 3 is in the main state. Now connect to the main instance using Vault protocol to run write queries. And that's all you need to do. Congratulations! With these steps, you have established a basic Memgraph cluster with high availability. Be sure to try it firsthand on your Memgraph database. Thanks for joining us. Head over to memgraph.com to learn more about high availability or join our Discord community to connect with other graph enthusiasts.